Hey guys, welcome back to another Bible in the Backyard episode. I know it's been a couple weeks, and this lesson is still based in friendship. It's based on who you have around you and where are they leading you to. And it's also based in faith. I know the past couple Wednesday nights at church, or when we started back meeting again, we were talking about faith. And we were talking about faith has 3 different stages, and then we talked about faith having stalling. Faith feels like sometimes when you're stalling and you can't move forward, or something happens and you quit. Not necessarily quit, but your faith just stalls out. This is a little bit different. This is faith just following directions, and sometimes it's directions from other people, and then it's sometimes just, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And I have up here at the very beginning, it says faith after losing, or faith after loss, and then it says faith through change as well. And then at the end, there's other things that that I'm going to tie in to all of this too. I'm in the book of Ruth. And during my Sunday school lesson a couple weeks ago, Ruth got spoken of again. So I kind of want to go back to her. I read this book earlier this year, Lineage of Grace, by Francine Rivers. And it was a beautiful tale of a story and how it personified Ruth to be more than just what was in here. It gave her a life. It gave her visual images and stuff that I could see as I read this story. And so I came back to the book of Ruth. So this is going to be a longer video. I apologize, but that's just how it's going to be. And we start off in the first chapter. And yes, I'm going to go through all 4 chapters, so bear with me. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went sojourn into the country of Moab, he, his wife, and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion. Please excuse if I can't read correctly. Ephraites of Bethlehem, Judah, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughter-in-laws, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on their way to return into the land of Judah. In verse 8 through 15 is really important, because this is where Naomi really kind of explains to the daughters-in-law, they're like, they want to stay with her. They want to stay with Naomi. But she's like, I can't give you anything else. I'm in old age. I'm in this. I'm in that. I'm not going to marry again. So why are you hanging around? It's not like I can give you another son. And would you wait for them anyways to grow and be of age to begin with? To marry and then try and live on the family tree. And she's like, go back home. Verses 8 through 15. Verses 8 says, go, return to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said surely unto her, this is where they want to stay. Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. In verses 11 through 13 is where she's like, I can't give you what you need. I can't take care of you the way that I need to take care of you. Go back home. In verse 14 it says, and they lifted up their voice and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth claved unto her. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. Basically saying, go back home. Ruth refuses to leave. This is really important. Verses 16, 17, and 18. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go. Where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they agreed. In verse 19 through 22, they arrive back in Bethlehem, and people are wondering, is this Naomi? Is this Naomi? So they went on to, verse 19. So they too went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? And she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara. For the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call me Naomi, seeing the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty have afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth, the Moabitess daughter, her daughter-in-law with her, which turned out of the country of Moab, and came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. Okay, to understand chapter 2 and even 3, you're going to have to understand what the word gleaning is. So in my Bible, and down here in the little sections I have, it says, the practice of gleaning was allowed to the poor to go through the fields after the harvesters, picking up the grain that was left behind. Along with the grain, the landowners were required to leave at the edges of their field. Boaz had wealth, but it becomes clear in the story unfolds that he is also a man of integrity. The family connection was unknown to Ruth. Humanly speaking, she just happened to end up gleaning in his field, but there is no coincidences in God's program. This divine appointment proved that the Lord was not against Naomi as she had thought. Okay, so let's discover what's going to happen next. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me go unto the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And he said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was too light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was a kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came up from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Then Boaz said unto his servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set out over the reapers answered and said, this is the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came, and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then Boaz said unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not glean in another field, neither go from thence, but abide here fast by my maidens. So he wants her to stay. He wants to protect her from the other fields and the other landowners around. Let thine eyes be on the field, that they do reap, and go out after them. I have not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee. When thou art athirst, go into the vessels and drink that of which the young men have drawn. So not only is he providing her a way to get food, to get wheat, so she can go and serve Naomi, because this is what she's doing. She's taking care of her mother-in-law. She's not really necessarily doing anything else right now at this moment in time. She's really focused on taking care of her mother-in-law, Naomi, and this is a way that they can get food, which is gleaning in the fields. So Boaz is not only letting her stay and glean in the fields, he's also letting her have water. Later, he also is going to let her come and eat with them during lunchtimes, dinner time, supper times, so she can continue to stay in the field and work. In verse 10, it says, Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that I shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? She's not just a stranger to the people of Bethlehem. She's a stranger to the whole city of Bethlehem. Not just to Boaz and his workers, but to the entire city of Bethlehem. She's a stranger. And Boaz answered and said unto her, It had fully been showed me all that thou hast done to the mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how you have left your father and your mother in the land of your nativity, and have come into a people which you didn't know. The Lord recompense thy work, and full reward will be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wing thou art come to trust. So through the time that she spent with Naomi and Elimelech in the land of Moab, she knew something was different. Ruth knew something was different about Naomi. Ruth knew something was different about this land that she came from. She wanted to come with Naomi because she didn't want to go back. Something was different here. She knew it, she felt it, and she wanted to go and see what this was. It says in verse 13, Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaiden, though I be not like unto one of thy handmaidens. And this is where Boaz shows really good favor to Ruth. He's already offered her to glean in the fields. He's already offered her water whenever she does get thirsty during the day. In verse 13, And Boaz said unto her, At mealtime come down hither, eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn. And she did eat, and was sufficed, and left. And when she had risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, basically he made the young men stay, and gave them directions. And when she had risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. Because when you glean, and when these people, they have to kind of go behind and kind of pick up what's left, not really get the bulk of the meat of what was the wheat. Basically what was left is what she was picking up. Boaz now is giving them instructions to let her have the bulk. Get the bulk. Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. And let fall also some of the handfuls of the purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up, and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth, and gave it to her, that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed is he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man's name who I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he the Lord, who hath not let off his kindness to the living and to the dead. Naomi said unto her, The man is near kin to us, one of our next kinsmen. And Ruth the Moabitess said, He is unto me also. Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that thou hast go out with his maidens, that they may meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of the barley harvest. So the barley harvest was basically the entire season of wheat harvest, and dwell with her mother-in-law. And then Naomi's instructions. So basically, towards the end of the barley harvest, something's going to happen. Something's going to change in Boaz's life and Ruth's life and also Naomi's life. And so it's the end of the barley harvest. They're going to be in the barn. They're going to be making sure they have everything. So let's just see what happens. Basically, again, at the beginning, talking about faith, and Ruth is really just kind of following instructions. She's saying thank you. She's being gracious. She's being with whatever she can get. Like, thank you for letting me glean in the fields. And Boaz and his instructions to his people saying, let her glean. Take this off, take that off. Like, let her get more than what she would originally get. Follow my instructions. In chapter 3, verse 1, it says, Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now, basically saying, can I please set up a marriage for you? That's basically what she's saying. And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whom's maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth with barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be when he lieth down, that they shall mark the place where he shall lie. And thou go in and cover his feet, lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou must do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me I will do. Again, following instructions. Ruth is being led this way. And she's basically agreeing, saying, Yes, Naomi, you may help me set this up. She went down unto the floor in verse 6, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn, and she came softly and covered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight, the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaiden. Spread therefore thy skirt over that handmaiden, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for it has showed me more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. So he's basically saying that she's steadfast. She's immovable. She's not going to just go this way and that way. She's going to continue with what she's going to do regardless. And now, my daughter, fear not, for I will do unto thee all that thou requirest. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. That's chapter 3, verse 11 of the book of Ruth. Everybody in the city is what he's saying, that you are a virtuous woman. What is a virtuous woman? Let's turn to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is the merchant ships, and she bringeth her food from afar. She riseth while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. She considereth the field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengthens her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretches her hand to the poor, yea, she reached forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She make herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, and he sitteth among the elders of the land. We're going to get back to this verse in a second in this story. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is a law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up, call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Ruth has done all of these things. She does girt her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. She does have strength and honor as her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come, as we'll see in a few minutes. And a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. And Ruth is beginning and has done this. So back to the book of Ruth. That was a little segue. I was studying this, and I was like, a virtuous woman. What is a virtuous woman? Those are the qualities of a virtuous woman. Verse 12, it says, And now be true that I am near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then I will do the part of a kinsman to thee. As the Lord liveth, lie down until morning. And she lay at his feet until morning, and she arose up before no one could know another. And he said, Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Because the threshing floor was just meant for men at that time. He said, Bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her, and she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley he gave me. For he said unto me, Go not empty into thy mother-in-law. Then she said, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know the matter will fall, for the man will not rest until he has finished the thing this day. So when you winnow with barley in the night in the threshing floor, that takes time. That takes multiple days, and that's where the work needs to be done. However, Boaz leaves the threshing floor. He leaves what his work is doing, and he goes and he does this. In chapter 4, verse 1, it says, Then Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, he's known at the gate. Remember? Back in Proverbs. And the kinsman of whom Boaz spake of came by, unto whom he said, Such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city, and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know, for there is none other to redeem it besides you, and I am after you. And he says, I will redeem it. However, there's also a catch to redeem this. Then Boaz says in verse 5, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must also buy it of Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife upon the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. So Boaz knows these things. He knows the law. He knows what needs to happen. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So basically, if your husband passed and then you married someone else back in the day, and you had no children, your firstborn would then go to, it would be, you basically be redeeming the lost husband. And then whatever kids you have after that would then be necessarily Boaz's at this point. Yes, it was a little bit confusing, but that's how it happened back in the day. For I cannot redeem it. Verse 7, now was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, to confirm all things, a man pluck off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chelon's, and all that Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, I have purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead in his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren. And from the gate of this place ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord maketh the woman that is come to thine house like Rachel and like Leah. Two very honorable women in the Bible, which two did build the house of Israel, and thou worthily of Ephratah, and famous in Bethlehem. And let that house be like the house of Pharez, whose Tamar bare unto Judah. Of the seed the Lord shall give of thee this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife, and he went unto her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without kinsmen, and the name be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and nourisher of thine own age, thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to be 7 sons hath borne him. And Naomi took the child, and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the woman of her neighbors gave unto her name, saying, there is born a son to Naomi. And they call his name Obed, and he is the father of Jesse, who is the father of David. So, when I wrote this yesterday, it was kind of, I wrote these 2 paragraphs down about this, and part of me was like, it's called faith without knowing that it's faith. Ruth was honoring her mother-in-law this entire time. That's basically, she knew something was different about Naomi, and she wanted to stay with her and take care of her and honor her, because that was her job. That was what she wanted to do. That's what she needed to do. She was really following what she thought was right. She was really following instructions, and the instructions came from not only Naomi, but it came from Boaz too. To not get hurt physically by any other fields, any other landowners, and sometimes the reapers and what people would work in. Necessarily, yeah, but they weren't always good people either. So they could hurt the people that were gleaning and telling them to move and get away. She was welcome into the field. She was welcomed to then the water vessel. She was welcome to eat the food of the workers and the food that Boaz provided. And I know that our past Wednesday night stuff, sometimes our faith grows even when we don't realize it. I think Ruth's faith was growing that entire season without realizing it. And she's just following directions. She was just going about life day to day to day. And she was just following directions. And those roads, sometimes they aren't easy. You have to do the work. You have to get out in the field. You have to have part of the harvest. You have to work or you won't have harvest at all. But ultimately, God is going to bless you through this, whether it is a dry season or it is a this, that, and the other. Ultimately, Ruth, and in return, Naomi. It's not just a story about Ruth and Boaz. It's a story about Naomi and redeeming and God even blessing her, because through this, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, who is the father of David. And as we know, the lineage follows down into Jesus. So this whole thing was set up of God's command to then follow through and have Jesus, because there's so many different things. So in my Bible, hopefully I can raise this up and show you without knocking everything over. Oh, like there's a lineage. It has Boaz and it has Ruth, and it follows down unto David. It says Obed unto Jesse, unto David, and David's to Bathsheba, and then unto Solomon, and then Solomon follows down the generations unto Jesus. So just the simple things about following instructions, and sometimes those instructions can be kind of weird, saying, stay in this field, work in here, drink from my water vessels, come eat our food, take care of your mother-in-law, take care of your family. And sometimes those things are easy, sometimes those things are hard. But ultimately Ruth was following what was right, and Naomi went back home and ended up being honored by this child, and by Ruth and by Boaz, and they really were a virtuous family. So that was my kind of lesson about faith through just following simple instructions. Simple instructions, hard instructions, etc. So we will see you guys next time. Thanks.